Good morning. My team is conformed by Gael and me, Ximena. And now we're going to present the final evidence of human body care.
The main reproductive system, here you can see it, is the conformed by the urinary bladder, the symphysis pubis, the ductus deferens, the urethra, all the parts of the lower part of the abdominal cavity, the penis, the testis, the scrotum. Now I'm going to tell you the parts. It starts with the genital tract, that it starts with the sperm production by the testes within the epididymis. This is the maturation must be required from certain age. You start developing this. Then the sperms enter to the vas deferens where they are stored for a while. Then it curves around the urinary glands and empties all the sperm into the ejaculatory ducts, where they pass when they're used to and they are connected to the urethra. And then the penis. The penis is the male organ of sexual intercourse. It's the principal of all the male organs, and it has a long shaft and enlarged tip called gland penis. It is covered with a layer called foreskin. The foreskin, in some cases, it is removed by a surgical surgery, which is called circumcision. That usually is done by religious reasons. Then it is the testes. Are the male gonads that are sex hormones and produce sperm. They are found inside the scrotum. This is the scrotum. They are found inside there, and which lie outside the abdominal cavity. The scrotum helps to regulate the temperature of the sperm by holding their closer or far apart from the body. The sperm production can be affected by the heat and the warmth. So sometimes when you are closer to something heat, when you have the laptop on your legs or something like that, the sperm production goes down. Then we have the hormonal regulation in male. The hypothalamus is the one that controls the function of the testes because it secretes hormones that cause gonadotropin and release hormone that is abbreviated GnRH. You can see here the hypothalamus, the GnRH, then it goes to the anterior pituitary and all the way to the testosterone. The testosterone is the main sex hormone in males, and it's essential for the normal development of the sexual activities. And this testosterone it causes and maintains the male sex characteristics and is developed in the puberty.
Well, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the female reproductive system. Let's start with the parts of it. First we have the vagina, then we have the cervix, the cervical canal, the ovarian ligaments, the ovary, the fallopian tubes, the uterine fundus, the uterus, the endometrium that is right here, the broad ligament, the myometrium, and the perimetrium. I am going to explain the function of some of the parts of the female reproductive system. First, we start with the function of the ovary, that is to produce ovum. Then we have the function of the fallopian tube. We have two. It channels ovum from the ovary to the uterus. And one function that is really important, that is where the fertilization takes place. Then we have the function of the uterus, that is to accommodate and protect the embryo. Then the function of the cervix. The function of the cervix is that it connects the uterus with the vagina, and it also produces mucus. Then the function of the vagina, That is that it receives sperm from the man, and it also produces fluid for lubrication. We also have the female external genitals. There is the mons pubis, the clitoris, the labia minora, the labia majora, the anus, the prepuce, that is right here, the uterine orifice, and also the vagina. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the oocyte. An oocyte is an immature egg. Oocyte develops to maturity from within a follicle. These follicles are found on the outside layer of the ovaries. The oocyte are transported to the fallopian tubes, where fertilization takes place, and fertilization by sperm may occur, to the uterus. Then, once it's on the uterus, the fertilized egg can be implanted into thickened uterine lining, and it continues to develop. Now I'm going to talk about the hypothalamus, that is right here, and the pituitary gland, that is right here. The hypothalamus secretes a small peptide hormone, also known as the GnRH. Is the luteinizing hormone. The follicle-stimulating hormone is produced by the pituitary gland during the first half of the menstrual cycle. Now I'm going to talk about the ovarian cycle. The ovarian cycle phases, we can see there is the follicular phase and the luteal phase. On the follicular phase, we have the growth of the follicle. Then in the middle, we have the release of the follicle. And finally, the corpus luteum forms, degenerates. The ovarian cycle refers to the series of changes in the ovary during which the follicle matures. The ovum is shaped and the corpus luteum develops. In the luteal phase, that is this one, the corpus luteum forms on the ovary and secretes many hormones. Most significantly, progesterone, which makes the endometrium of the uterus ready for implantation of an embryo. If implantation does not occur, the corpus luteum will be degraded, resulting in what we know as menstruation. If implantation occurs, the corpus luteum is maintained. Then we have the uterine cycle. On the uterine cycle phases, we can see there is the menstrual flow, the proliferative phase, and the secretory phase. The menstrual phase, also known as menstruation, is the first phase of the uterine cycle. The flow of menses normally serves as a sign that a woman has not become pregnant. The proliferative phase, that is the second phase of the uterine cycle, is when estrogen causes the lining of the uterus to grow or proliferate during this time. And finally, the secretory phase, that is the third phase of the uterine cycle, corresponds to the luteal phase of the ovarian cycle that we talked before. During the secretory phase, the corpus luteum produces progesterone, which plays a vital role in making the endometrium receptive to implantation of the blastocysts and supportive of the early pregnancy. We can see that the uterine cycle and the ovarian cycle are like handed. The ovarian cycle governs the preparation of endocrine tissues and release of eggs, while the uterine cycle governs the uterine lining. Now I'm going to talk about the birth control methods. Let's start with the less effective. That is the spermicide and the fertility awareness and the withdrawal. These birth methods, because we can say they are, but they don't help that much, are 71 to 72% of effectiveness. It depends on the method you're using. Then we have the diaphragm, the condoms, internal or external, the sponge, and the cervical cap. These are 78 to 82% of effectiveness. Then we have the shot, the pill, the ring, and the patch. These birth control methods are really effective. It are 92 to 97% of effectiveness. And finally, we have the most effective, that is sterilization, implant, and the IUD that are 99% effective. I'm going to tell you about the different type of birth control methods. We have the hormonal birth control that it works by preventing ovulation so that a woman is temporarily infertile. Here we can say that we have the pills. Then we have the barrier methods of birth control. It prevents the men's sperm from reaching an egg. We can find the diaphragm, the condoms, internal and external, and the cervical caps. And finally, the birth control methods such as intrauterine devices work by preventing a fertilized egg from implanting in the uterus and causing pregnancy. Here we can say there is the IUD and everything of that. So, thank you for your attention. We were Gael and Ximena.